Welcome to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond with your host, Christina George.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Christina George, and welcome to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. Looking forward to tonight's show. I have to apologize before I start for a few things. So last night, as probably many people know, because I know a lot of my listeners follow me on Facebook, but I somehow cracked the screen on my new laptop. And so called in to get it all, see if I can get it fixed, because I have a warranty on it, brand new, so I bought it like that. And, of course, what do they tell me? Oh, it covers everything except for laptop screens. And not only do we not cover that, but now that you have broken it, that now voids your warranty. So, you know, hey, I just kind of take the punches as they come because I'm so used to it, it doesn't even, shake me too much. So for all of my friends that are in chat that join us every single week, I have to apologize. I'm not going to be able to chat tonight. But I know you're all there, and Tiffany is overseeing, and she'll keep an eye on chat. If you have any questions, please make it easy for her and go ahead and put the questions all in capitals. She will relay them to me through Facebook, and I will make sure to answer them. So tonight we're going to do something just a little bit different. It's Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. Tonight we're going to do a little bit of Beyond. And that probably sounds a little strange because most of us think that, topics that I bring up are very out there anyway. But tonight we're going to be talking a little bit of everything. We're going to talk conspiracy theories. We're going to talk about the Illuminati. We're going to even talk about my connection to the Freemasons. We're going to be talking about everything that's going on, HARP. Many of you know that about that. What we think is going to, how it's all connected, where this is all going. We always, as usual, invite you to call in if you'd like to. I fortunately do not have the phone number in front of me, but I will get it. And also, Tiffany will put it in the chat room. So if you have a question, like I said, you can call in, just push number 1, and it will transfer you over to the producer, and she'll be happy to bring you on. All right, so tonight my guest is going to be Judith Crowley. Now, Judith happens to be one of our new show hosts here at GTM Wicked Radio Network, and he just started a few weeks ago, and I actually had been friends with him on Facebook a little bit, and we kind of chatted a few times, and I found that he had just decided to sign on with our network and thought he would be a great guest. And most people knew that Andrew Basaggio was supposed to be on tonight's show. But once again, he had to cancel. He is in the midst of flying from one place to another and going to Washington, D.C. So he has had to reschedule once again. But, hey, like I said, we rolled the punches. And Judith was nice enough to decide to come and talk to us tonight about all these conspiracies and everything that's going on. So that's what the plan is. So as I told Judith, we don't have any real script or anything like that. How we do it here is we just talk, get some education, and if people have questions, they ask them. So it's pretty laid back, as most of my listeners know. But I will tell you, I did get a chance to listen to a couple of his archive shows, and very interesting. And I will tell you, we were talking earlier today on the phone, and before I knew it, I realized we had been talking for 4.5 hours until both of our phones were about to die. We didn't have our chargers really close, so we finally said, okay, might as well take a break and save something for our 2-hour little show. So, and as you can hear in the back, this is, he's laughing in the background because this is exactly what we just got off the phone not too long ago. So, hey, Judith, thanks so much for coming tonight and, talking to us about conspiracy theories. I know this is a real passion of yours, and from our conversation, I can tell you are very, very awake, very awake.
Yes.
So it's very refreshing.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, and it's definitely a pleasure. Definitely want to thank you. I've listened in, and I feel like I'm listening to myself, only you introduced aliens and ghosts to the situation. So I was like, a little more intrigued and more wanting to basically dive right into your mind and what you see on the situation, because I have met people and I also have family members that have had paranormal and UFO experiences or alien experiences or whatever you want to call them. And, basically they don't really like to talk about it to me, though. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of something where they're a little standoffish about. So I basically, when I started listening to your show, I felt as if I was like, into the Discovery Channel, but a lot better,
Well, I do appreciate that, and yes, we were talking today, and Juice was telling me how he originally started, listening to my show. He added me on Facebook, and I always welcome everybody that adds me, and I said, I hope you enjoy our friendship, and I hope you'll enjoy my shows, and he said, I'll check them out. Next thing you know, I was seeing them, in the chat room and things like that, and next thing I know, we're talking, and it was amazing, because it's not very often, unless I'm talking to, a lot of my friends who are listeners out there, about all these different topics and how they all connect and they intertwine. And so it's so refreshing to be able to have a conversation with somebody who not only gets it, but, they understand, in areas that I may not be well-versed in. I got a lot of knowledge, today from you. You got a lot from me. And I think that's the dialogue that's important.
It was a mutual thing. I think it was a good conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I got to teach you something. It was, because it really all connects. Everything inside the universe is one. Every single thought, everything from the beginning of time was a conscious thought. You know what I'm saying? And so it's what created reality in the first place. So, when you start getting down into, politics, religion, the Illuminati, particular Bible prophecies coming true, even secrecies of the aliens, secrecies of all the, like NSA, WikiLeaks, all these things were all secrets before, but now they're just all of a sudden starting to come out even more rapidly. But they're actually connected way further beyond than what most people can comprehend. And it even goes into science. It goes into just about everything you can possibly think of. And a lot of people are kind of not really seeing the whole picture sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, for people who aren't, so for people who aren't real, up to date on all of this, what are your thoughts of the reason why the government, has tried so hard, for, probably looking back, to when the government started. Why do you think that there's been so much control and kind of keeping us in the dark about so many things that?
Well, my personal actual belief of why everything is actually a big secret is because people have this opinion that they deserve to rule other people. And if you start looking back into history, this is pretty much exactly what's going on now. It's been going on forever, and we're pretty much doing the same thing forever in the same, just a different date. You know what I'm saying? We're doing the same thing. And the way that I personally look at it is the reason why there is so much control over everything is because we actually have the ability to be able to be just as good as them, just as good as everybody that you look around. You are even more than what you even contemplate that your really self is actually worth. And I think a lot of people are blinded to this fact because of specific kind of pollutions put into our food and water supplies. You start looking at our education system where we're taught right from basically birth to basically conform to a system. And it really starts to burrow down into other ways of your belief system. And so if you can control your belief system, then you can control the God in you. You know what I'm saying? I believe that in a spiritual essence, if you can believe in God and the possibilities of just blind faith, then there's no reason why you couldn't take somebody else's word and the experiences that they went through and not respect theirs just as much as they should respect yours. And I think that's another problem in society is our relationships are kind of whacked out of where it's askew. People only half listen to people. That's my personal opinion. But I think that's my personal opinion. Is the reason why they want to control people is because you can be your own counselor. You can be whatever you want to be. But the thing is if they can control you and put you through stress, give you fluoride, genetically modified organisms, medicines, all these different things, vaccinations, all these things make a combination and a concoction of its own to be able to dumb you down and make you completely just kind of stressed out to where if a real problem arises, you get more stressed out than rather come up with a solution.
Very, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. Well, and I think you're right on. And we hear about all of the conspiracies. We hear about 9/11, and for many people who know me, they know that right before, it was like a week prior to 9/11, and I've actually since then I've heard this from many people who do have abilities. And
I'm going to say one thing now that you mentioned 9/11, and I hate to cut you off.
No.
I just want to throw this out there because if we're going to talk about any conspiracy theory at all, 9/11 is like the number one thing. And I think if anybody really respects this country that they're living in, they need to know that that was an inside job. And if they believe it in their heart and if everybody can say it to themselves and really know it, they should start really doing something about it because your country is about to be taken away from you and you don't even know it. And I'm not trying to put it out there in a mean way. We're getting to the tick, tick, tick part where things are about to really start to change, and it's like everything's on a ruse right now, a silent siege, and you got to think about the media, how that's controlling everybody, and how we're being lied to and manipulated all the time. So if you got to look past certain things in your life, and if you realize that your government is a tyrannist and is a terrorist in the country, being a big bully and starting to make, if you have to follow rules and laws, don't you think they should have to follow the same ones? That's my opinion, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I think people should start standing up for their rights before they start using them as toilet paper.
Right, and what's kind of funny about that is, we are kept in the dark about, so many things. Like, people have no idea, and I think that sometimes for people it's easier to just pretend it doesn't exist, or it doesn't apply to them. Just like the whole Obamacare, with big farce. Now, the funny thing about it is...
That's a big deal, though. That's a big deal.
But the Democrats, and all that are pushing for that have all opted out.
Yeah, did you know they're all exempt, though, from Obamacare, except for everybody else in the nation? So all the people that are Democrats, they're exempt. They don't need Obamacare, but all the Republicans and all the citizens need it.
Right. Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, it's so great, why aren't you, having this? I don't see Michelle and the kids, getting Obamacare, what's up with that? And the thing is that there is so much, and, I think that a lot of times what the government does is that, there is so much information that is, like, unless you are a lawyer and you know what to look for, it's not just some small print, it's all small print. And there are thousands of pages, of it. And, that's where I first, started seeing a lot about the RFID chips. Now, we talked about this a little earlier today, and it's something that my listeners are very, very aware of. And I was telling you, earlier, and working on this small Kindle is very hard to get all the information that I want, so I'm so used to my laptop. But I had read where, they were offering to parents to bring in their children and have them checked. And not only there, but I think it was like in the Middle East or somewhere, in third world countries. And what they were doing is they were, in order to get people there, they were saying they weren't so worried about the adults. They were worried about the children, and they said, bring your kids in, because right now they don't know how to say so. If parent signs it, they get it, just like the vaccinations. So they turned around and, they said, well, this will help save children. And this is how the angle that they're going at. If you come and you get,
it's just like the guns.
Yes.
So keep going.
You get your kid chipped, and it's no different than what they're doing with the animals when they chip them and they put a little computer chip in case you lose your dog or something. And they're saying, well, so many children are kidnapped every year that if your child gets kidnapped, we'll be able to track them by satellite. We'll be able to find them, just like, GPS and, like your dog or your car. And, and you won't be that parent that's crying.
I have a question real quick. So let's say this right here. Let's say the RFID chip, right, is known in a common spot. Let's say your right hand, okay? Do children get them in a common spot underneath their elbow? Are they going to get it, put it underneath their armpit? Because, they're obviously going to be very mandatory about this, and they're obviously going to be very, uniformed. Everybody's going to have the same thing in the same spot. So don't you think anybody that would abduct a child would just go and remove it if they even had one in themselves?
Right.
That's another thing. That's definitely a good question. And another one that I would think about that people should think about, and this is the only reason why I'm asking the questions is so that people can start asking questions themselves, So, and another good thing is, if you think about the RFID chip, okay, I live in a major city. It's actually like murder capital of America. Like every time I watch the news, it's like an action movie. I swear, I'm not lying. It's absolutely true. There's like more murders than anything, but you'll never hear about the real truth of the world. But they'll definitely emphasize on just crap. But anywho, I was basically turning around. What were we talking about? The RFID chip. So I started thinking about the fact that if you know that cops never actually really show up at a crime scene, because if you know that a crime is going to happen, right, and you call the police and say, hey, I know that I can set this guy up, right, and they'll tell you, well, there's nothing I can do for you. I need to see this guy commit a crime. So they only work if there's a crime being done. So they make money based off murder, your family's losses, particular things like that. That's how the system really works. They will not help you unless you basically take the matters into your own hand and now you're a criminal. It's the same thing. So if you know a particular time frame with these RFID trips, all you got to do is just basically do your crime, and you can do whatever you got to do and get right out real quick. It should take no time. And that's another thing to consider. So how can they use that as a way to be able to control people? It just doesn't make any sense. And when you look at the guns, it just makes a willing list of every American citizen to make a list so that basically everybody knows where to come and get the guns. And if you have a quantity amount of guns, well, they're coming to you first. All right? And so we just need to start really standing up and knowing our rights and doing these things, because you're absolutely right. And I'm, basically just trying to make key points here.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you see all the videos, and I think that now that we've got the internet, it has been very good as far as to get information out. But of course, the government doesn't like it because you're able to touch so many more people. Just my show is a worldwide audience. So, what I'm saying is not just, right here in Sacramento, and that's as far as it, reaches. It reaches around the world. And so when people start, putting this stuff out and it's pretty available, and, people catch, politicians and now our police daily. You can go on YouTube and you can see all of the, police officers that are, taking the law into their own hands. They're not following the law. I watched the other day a video that, a police officer had, pulled over a suspect, over on the side of the road, and they lived in it was a trailer park, okay, and so there's not really any, there was like a road, and then you turn into your trailer, and so both cars were right along the side of the road, and so it blocked the occupants, the homeowners' way to get into their driveway. So they pulled up behind the police car, and the child, one of their kids, was actually riding on a scooter right across, right in the street, right in the little area. And the dad and the mom and I guess their baby was in the back seat, and they said, and the dad says, hey, can you move your cruiser so that I can pull into my house? You're blocking my driveway. And that was all it took. And this police officer got so mad that he forgot all about the guy he had pulled over, and he comes and he grabs the husband and he literally yanks him out of the car and throws him on the ground. So, of course, his, 9 or 10-year-old son gets out, he drops his, scooter, and he runs over and he's like, oh, my dad, and all of a sudden he takes the little boy and he slammed him on the ground.
Wow.
And was so unbelievable. Now, of course, the wife who's in the passenger side is yelling and screaming, and, he's telling her she better shut up and stuff like that. So he goes around to the other side and he pulls her out of the car, and he literally has her hands behind her back, and then he takes them and he, literally lifts them up above her head. So she's, bent over, and she's screaming bloody murder. And, to the point that neighbors came out, and some neighbors started getting their videotaping. And, he's over there, and he's cuffing, he's kicking this guy, and, he's doing all kinds of stuff. And then he realizes one of the neighbors is videotaping him. And,
oh, no.
It comes over and says, you better turn, this off. And they were screaming at the officer, what are you doing? What in the world what are you doing? He didn't do anything. And so, one of the other people was really worried he was going to hurt somebody. But he called into the police and said, look, we need some officer assistance. And he didn't say anything bad against the officer, but he just said, the situation, and he's being a little rough with people, and, I think he needs some help. We need some extra police officers here. And the guy says, you don't need to call anybody. They already know about it. And he tells the guy to get off the phone. And he's like, well, I'm on with dispatch. They don't know about it. And he's like, I told you, turn it off. And he grabs the guy's phone, and he takes it, and he turns it off, and he throws it. And then he comes after the guy that's videotaping. And so, next thing you know, he takes it and he throws that on the ground, but the tape didn't go off. So he was still, taping it. And, all just because somebody had asked for them to move. And the thing is that this couple's young infant child was still strapped in a baby seat inside the car while he's got, both parents and this little 9-year-old son on the ground on the middle of the street. And just because he was pissed because they had asked him to move his cop car. And we see this happening more and more.
Every day.
People's egos and they
don't really blow it up like that, though. That's not blown up on the news. You know what I'm saying? You don't ever see, police brutality. You always see police brutality really on your, Facebook when it's, putting a little meme. I mean, and you got to look for it. You got to go find this stuff, You got to, basically guide yourself to want to kind of find the real problems in the world. You can't just basically looking for Justin Bieber and, Justin Timberlake all the time. I mean, truly the way that I look at it is you're absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? You are absolutely right,
Well, it's just one of these things, we have to start paying attention. My daughter was telling me the other day, and we saw, some undercover car, police car, and nowadays when I was growing up and it was younger, they all had those Crown Victorias or a Ford or whatever, but it was very, all the cop cars were the same, and even the undercover cop cars, had the lights they could, flip on or whatever, but they were. Right now, anybody's car that they take over. No, you can't. You can't. And now you see all these different cars. Now they're saying, okay, well, we don't really have any money, so when we bust these drug dealers or anybody who's doing anything illegal, we're just going to confiscate their car now, okay, and then we're going to use it on our own behalf. And so they're driving around in all these cars, and so we had seen this, and it was like a Ford. It's not even a mini, the Flex vehicle. And so, kind of long,
the Ford Flex?
Yes, and they had turned it into a police car. So, they got the lights that are going to, in the dashboard and then in the grill.
Are we living in a Nazi America? Do we have to walk on eggshells everywhere we go? I mean...
Right. Now we don't even know who...
I think people should ask themselves, what is freedom? People will sit there and literally say, well, I live in the greatest nation in the world. It still is. At least it's better than everywhere else. I mean, how can people really necessarily say that? When you start looking at the government shutting down, the collapse of the American dollar that's about to happen, and that's why these RFID chips are very important. Because how are you going to have a real world currency? You won't. They'll have to keep everything on a credit system. So, like, if you go to work or whatever, it'll all be nominated through credits. And if you don't think that it's really that big of a deal, I would YouTube Mythbusters and the RFID chip. And the guy that hosts our Mythbusters, he was on there talking about how the government would not let him actually air the show. And because of the certain kind of, how would you call it, controversial topics that would be involved of the certain effects that are actually involved with the actual RFID chip. It's not just a tracking device. It controls all your money. Yep, it controls all your money. It also is so that you can buy and sell certain things. It'll all be through the chip. You basically just be like, beep.
Yes.
And I know it sounds awesome in technology and it's so cool and stuff, but it's also known as like the mark of the beast in the Bible, you know, and especially when they're talking about putting it, which is in your right hand. And if you look in China, I'm not trying to like push a bunch of religion on people, but it is the truth. If you do read the Bible and you do actually read Revelations, it does talk about the mark of the beast. It talks about all the prophecies that are going on today and all the trumpets that are going on and particular things. And, you know, when you start looking at the RFID chip, this is definitely something that's been planned for a long time, and it's got a lot of control behind it. And if you do not abide by the system, they'll just shut it off, and you'll basically not be able to eat or have a way of travel, and they'll seek you. They'll find you and be able to kill you. And our president is able to arrest you without due process, which is no judge and no jury, and he is actually allowed to be your executioner, too. And so it's kind of like America at its finest going down the toilet.
Oh, absolutely. And can you believe, you know, just like when we think it can't get any worse, then Obama decides to create his own laws, you know, and just say, I don't even need anybody's permission. I'm just saying this is how it's going to be. And when he turned around and he said, you know, normally you have to be, you know, if you're arrested, you have to be charged within 72 hours or 48 hours now, and, you know, or you have to be let go. And not anymore. Not only can they pick you up, but, and see, people think that, you know, this doesn't, I talk to so many people, and they're just so misinformed, because people will say, oh, no, Christina, you've got that messed up. That's just for terrorists. And so I said, oh, really? Well, so I pull it up.
Who is the terrorist?
We are now.
We've always been the terrorists. And I have to say one thing, though, because I have to say something like, okay, I love music, I love people, and when I communicate with people outside the United States, they have a really bitter taste in their tongue towards Americans. And the reason why is because when you look at countries that kind of get put through genocides and certain takeovers, they stand up and they fight for their country. And right now, our country, it's not our fault. You know, but we need to start waking up and understanding the manipulation that's really going on, because, like, your TV is controlled by everybody, all your media is controlled by the government. It's really the Illuminati, because I will get into that a little bit. But, like, in the real aspect of it, like, when you start thinking about 9/11, if everybody knows it was an inside job, and I'm sure everybody's heard it, and if they believe it, then why is nothing happening about it? And if it was the inside job, then why is our tax dollars still going to a war in Iraq and Afghanistan and now wanting to go into Syria and other places? They also bought 1.7 billion rounds of ammo, okay, tons of food for the FEMA concentration camps, you know, but yet we're going bankrupt. Detroit's going to crap. You know, these are the things that I started acknowledging. You know what I'm saying? I started making lists. And then don't forget about Sandy Hook, the Boston bombings that was set up. Even this recent one in Washington, D.C., the individual had ELF, carved on his gun. And I remember listening to the urine stream media, and they were like telling me, they were like basically saying they didn't know what it meant. The officials don't know what that means. And instantly, dude, that's electrical frequency waves. What are you talking about? This stuff was released in the media back in the 90s, right after the 80s, about how they were working with this to be able to put thoughts in people's heads through low range of frequencies to make them be kind of, you know, a little psychotic, you know, maybe want to go kill somebody. And maybe this individual, why did he target the military? Maybe he was a part of the military. Look at the individual, Adam Lancer from Sandy Hook. This guy was 17 years old. He's like as scrawny as a little 17-year-old can get. I mean, he looks like my 6-year-old kid, honestly. He had like little scrawny elbows, and I mean, he was a little kid. All of a sudden turned into Rambo, secret sniper guy, had CIA, abilities all of a sudden, wiped out his complete computer, had no Facebook, no MySpace, no Google name, nothing. There was nothing that tied to this kid. How is that? And then, I mean, these are just things that I'm pointing out in mere factors so that people can really start to see and try to look into. There's a lot more that goes on about the actors, crisis actors, particular individuals that are all involved. And if you start looking at the recent thing that just recently happened, well, you got Fukushima. That even happened too. That was caused by the government. So it's been happening ever since 9/11. It's been all these terrorist attacks and practicing and all these certain things. And I just think that people should really start, like, totally waking up. You know what I'm saying?
And I think they are. And I think that's what's making it so hard for the government right now is because just about as soon as they do a false flag,
soon.
Right. That's next. I mean, we all know that, and that's why for all of us that are out there are truth seekers, and we are out there trying to get information out. Now is the time, because believe me, once they shut it down and then they take over control of it, it will never be the same. The information will not be the same, and what we start seeing is that each false flag, back before we had all the internet, all that we had, the only information we got was out of the newspaper or off of the television. That's all that there was. And so now we have so many other avenues. You have alternative news and, one specifically for certain genres, and fields of, exploration. And so there's so much information out there. And so, and then you start finding out, like little by little, here we did 9/11 and people were like, oh no, I just can't believe you have to be the terrorists. We were teaching them to fly the planes and everything. Like, our government wouldn't do that. Why would they kill so many of their own people? And, what it's such a mind, through with
you're
people's
right.
minds.
I think their plan is kind of working against them in certain ways, so they're acting very fast, acting Sherwin-Williams. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Look how many we've had, back to back. And each time they get a little, it almost seems a little bit more desperate. Because, we had, the 9/11, and, of course,
I'll explain why. And this is my opinion and belief system of why people can understand that something's wrong. It's because we are in a one frequency. We're all connected to one. Our spirits understand each other subconsciously, and we're actually connected to the spirit of the earth. And the earth is in a chaos right now. And so when you're watching the news, 4 out of 10 people know we're in the end times or believe it. And so belief is a powerful thing, and that ought to tell you something. So if people can start looking around and be like, wow, this world's really messed up. Wow, this world's really messed up. They don't even really need to watch the news. They're feeling it.
Right.
Okay? I mean, seriously. So I know this stuff is like cripplingly crazy, and it makes you like, I might want to run for the closet, but honestly, it makes you grab a gun. It makes you even run to the government. I didn't tell you to do anything. I'm just saying.
Right.
Like, truly, man, like things are really starting to hit the fan. And so when you start looking, though, at the spiritual connection of all of us, we really are connected. We know we can feel it. And so why are people not doing something about it? That's the real key question to me, and I think what is your opinion of why a lot of people are maybe seeing it but not really doing anything about it?
Well, once again, I think that everybody, when they see certain things happen around them, they always have this perception that happens to everybody else. Take a look at death, okay?
True.
Death comes to anybody, right? But people always, they'll say, oh, I feel so bad for you or whatever. they never think that those things will happen to them. They never think they'll be in a car accident. You know, they never expect. It always blindsides them. And it's not, you know, because, you know, oh, well.
So it's like I said with the half conversation.
Yes.
People halfway in the conversation,
people,
halfway listening to you.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, it's out there, but that only affects those other people. And that's like going back to, you know, when we were talking about the terrorists, and they're saying, oh, well, those are just the terrorists, you know, we gotta protect ourselves. And I'm like, really? Okay, so let me read this to you. And, you know, there is now the term, you know, that they've written into the law of a homegrown terrorist. Because now they're saying, okay, well, now these terrorists are coming in and turning all of our people against us. And now we don't know, you know, who's friend and who's foe. So we have to have this to kind of just blanket everybody. If people don't understand, it's like it is so in your face now that it is hard to deny. So people are still, I know that there are going to be people.
I'm looking at the chat room right now, and I'm looking at Story Spirit for You. And she's like, you know, I've often wondered where, you know, the militia groups are. And you know, and then Kathy King is saying, you know, or Kang, sorry, is saying, you know, we would have to do something in a mass. And a lot of people kind of in a state of panic or frenzy, they kind of want to think in a violent way. And I can understand that. And understanding these comments, you know, I've done these same thoughts already a long time ago. And I actually am affiliated in specific kind of groups just for awareness and understanding. And a lot of these people are dropping out on their own because of the fear of the NSA. You know, nobody wants to be locked up somewhere. Nobody, you know, we are living in an invisible matrix of a prison in its own, but in the real reality, we still have a sense of freedom just by being able to walk outside. But how, you know, if you don't know your rights, then you don't deserve your rights, and that's exactly how they feel about it. So if you might go ahead and actually test the boundaries of something that's been done, but they invented a right to completely keep you straight online. And so what is free? And I'm going to go into other things, but when I sit there and look at these comments in here, you know, you have to look at it like this. The government is about control. They control your food. They control your money. They control your beliefs. People, when you talk about politics, they're like, I don't want to talk about that. Not even at the dinner table. Or religion. Right. And so when you sit there and think about that, all right, there's three main things to politics. You got people, you got your money, and you got your beliefs. And your beliefs are in everything that you do, whether you want to believe it or not. And I'm not lying. That's what our guide stone is of life, is all the things that we literally believe. All right? So maybe we're taught to believe all the wrong things. Maybe this whole money system and this big motivator called money is not really the solution. Because obviously we tend to judge people about money. It creates evil. It really does. I mean, I've had a lot of money in my hand before, and this person that you're talking to, he was wiped off the shelf for a little while, okay? He was MIA, all right? Like, I'm not lying. It changes people. And so I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and just keep trying to get it out there, because what people really need to do is start building gardens, start talking to your neighbors, building safety nets, start learning your rights, and developing, maybe if you're not going to church and feeling like you're at a church and you know it's good, then create a church of what you feel it should be in that way. And that, I guarantee you'll get a lot better results. Just go ahead and pray to God for these things, and they'll definitely give you the information. And I think that if we start building a safety net in the community, we won't need the government. We won't need the grocery store. We won't need to be in this sense of control. We'll connect back to the earth again. We'll get to unite with people. Because, I mean, like, if you look at the world around you, I mean, I got a little half an acre I'm living on, you know what I mean? But I got a neighbor that has, like, the same thing. And you know, and everybody else is kind of, like, spread out and stuff. But, I mean, like, they all have these little bits of land. But if everybody had a garden, and I knew Mr. John down the street, you knew Mr. James, and we were all interlinking together, and then things would start to be better. People would start to care more, and there would actually really be a better situation going on within, you know, the government could try to do something, and they really won't, you know, it won't work. You know what I mean? Because we won't fall. Because that was another thing you said. You said they want to use the RFID chips as like a safety scare risk thing, just like vaccinations. Well, the FEMA camps are going to be the same thing. They're going to drop like some kind of bacteria flu disease, which could be inside the vaccinations, make people sick, and tell you, oh, well, you got to run to these FEMA concentration camps so they can set up their own terrorist attacks.
The only place that has the vaccine. Right. This is the only place that you can get the vaccine and go. People, if you told them that, people would be running to these places, even though they know they're FEMA camps. Because, once again, the people that go there are going to think that they saw this illusion that the government is going to help us. And then when, I have even pointed out to people, I mean, this is how bad it gets. This is how many blinders people have on. I was talking about FEMA camps, and, here we're out in Sacramento, and, we've got quite a few, military, establishments around here. And we do have a FEMA camp that is here in Sacramento. And most people in Sacramento don't even realize it, okay? And so I've actually been to it, and I actually taken some pictures of it. And actually a couple other people I knew sent some pictures out, and they actually did some videos and were a few of the people that got, the coffin miner, the coffin miners, they were all stacked up and things like that, and we started paying more attention, and then we started seeing, before it just kind of looked like they set up this place and it was kind of abandoned, but then we started seeing life in it. So we started seeing trucks going, and delivering things, and then before you know it, we started seeing cars and personnel and people, going in there. These places are stocked, they're full of personnel, and they are ready to go. Why do you think we would do all that? Not just here, but I'm talking about all throughout the United States. Why would we do that if something wasn't about to happen? And everybody's just like,
I got another thing to say, too, it's gonna make some eyebrows raise a little bit. Our military, right, they love us. They got family here. You talk to them, they'd be like, don't worry. If anything ever happens, I promise you, I'll turn against my government. Well, didn't we just, send all our troops to Syria on ships and planes and all these other things right fresh out of the country? So where's
and not
our
only that, but remember,
not only that. They're building a domestic
that.
military, you know that? They're building a domestic military from overseas to bring over here so that they're not kind of really, too compassionate to our culture and, our ways. And they have no problem basically wearing American badges and our clothes and get up and rounding us up and, helping out the government do another Holocaust.
Absolutely. When that senator came out with, all the information, all the training of the UN forces and all this kind of stuff that was going on, and that these people needed to, learn English by October 1st, and, all this stuff was planned, and then, of course, we went through the government shutdown, and so it kind of, and I'll tell you, the only thing I think we went through that for was we had to have a distraction, because too many people knew what was about to happen. And I think that's the thing, is that this information gets out, because I know a lot of informants that I deal with, and a lot that are in the military, and I do get a lot of information from them. And
the military is great, though, especially the ex-military. Find the militia. All you guys, you need to find them seriously, because these individuals are very intelligent, and individuals, if you don't have money, they will teach you survival skills. They will network with you, and you will get the information before it even gets out to anybody else, and you can trust what they have to say, because these guys have been dealing with certain kind of conspiracy theorists. So you got certain kind of conspiracy theorists that thrive off fear propaganda. You got these kind of people, they'll say the same thing over and over again. They realize they got a good gimmick here. I can even maybe make some money, just keep saying the same thing. It's going to be great, and I'll just keep saying the same thing. Well, then you got the conspiracy theorists that go out there and they find facts that lead up to their theory that make them very kind of scared and nervous, feel the urge to want to tell people. And sometimes it gets snuffed under the rug, but in the mass majority of it really being significant, it will start to eventually leak out and slowly become a big mass thing, and people will start to become aware of it. And then it will no longer, it still is a conspiracy theory, though. You know what I'm saying? The government's never going to come out and be like, oh, yeah, they're absolutely right. We thought about that. Yep. I mean, they're literally going to be like, oh, that's just theory. You know what I mean? Really. So if you sit there and start thinking about all the things that are really going on, I was just like everybody else, sitting down in a floaty going down the river with a couple of beers in my hands, having a laugh, on a 4th of July a couple of years ago. And then it took me to really start looking at my rights and looking at the particular laws and certain things that are, really taking effect. And it started to scare me. And then I started to look even further into it, and I started seeing even Bible prophecies start to come true. And I'm like, oh, my God, like, what is this? This is going to be connected to each other. And that's when I started to see the Illuminati. And I started to, I gained some faith. I basically, gave myself to the Lord. I had a near-death experience, much like you did. And, I was very thankful to be alive, thankful to have my life and stuff. And I basically was like, hey, man, I'm your vessel. Whatever you got for me, I just pray for your wisdom. I want to be a messenger, And then all of a sudden, without a guiding hand, I thought of these things, on my own, about the religious things, of how they're tied into our religions and our politics and specific things, but I just didn't know how. You know what I'm saying? And the way that I related it back was like, well, if you look at DARPA, you look at HARP, these things to me are a form of magic, regardless of however you want to look at it or not. If you're messing with the weather and the elements around you, you're definitely playing like warlock. You know what I'm saying? You're playing witch, witch doctor, to me anyways. I mean, personal opinion. And then if you start going back further into certain times, I was like, well, look at all these Disney movies. These things teach about kings and queens doing magic, and all they would have the witches who do magic, and they would have philosophers and certain things. And then, I started thinking about the Bible, and I remember reading about magic in the Bible and how that was forbidden. So I was like, well, it obviously tells me something about our very continued past, about, Catholicism and how they controlled societies for a very long time, and I guarantee they practice magic. And this is exactly what I started thinking, and I found out I was very correct, just based off these intuitive abilities. And I was like, wow, this is smack dab, thank you, Lord, you're showing me the way. And this is what I mean. It's like you start opening up your eyes and start to see the real web of how it really starts to really get down to the nitty-gritty of it all. I mean, it's really scary but crazy stuff, interesting. It would have been a good book. It's a shame it's all true. A good science fiction novel.
No kidding. Yeah. I think, and people, it's easier for people to think, about things in science fiction or in a movie, because it's
you're right, Renee.
You're watching it somewhere from else, but it's like, people are starting to experience this for themselves, and this is going to be something that reaches out and touches everybody. I don't think people really understand, where all this is going, because before too long, it's not going to matter about money. Money isn't, there's going to be no money. That's going to be gone. And so everybody on that playing field is going to be pretty much the same. And having the government have that much control where your medical records, and see, once again, there was another avenue that they were trying to slide in the whole RFID, topic again, was medical records. They were saying, now we can get...
This is, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I laugh because of this. It's like they had a plan. You can see their plan, man. Through the fluoride, the canceristic materials in our food, all the fast food restaurants and the artificial food that's in there that's causing cancers and making us dumb and stupid. And it's like American is just too smart, man. We even dumb and at our weakest point, we're like, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. And it's unbelievable. And I can see it. And this is the awakening that they were talking in the Bible. So you know that there's nothing but horrible, horrible times to come now. I mean, I'm not lying. I'm sorry to say it and throw it out there like that. But it is absolutely true, And my mom always told me when I was a kid, don't worry, son, the world's going to end someday, but not in your day and age. And boy, was she wrong.
Now you're looking at it like, oh, wow, it's coming a lot faster than we thought, because people think that, once again, oh, that will never happen to us. It's happened in history. Like, we see where, stuff like this has happened, and we've, had to overthrow, and we've had to fight for our rights and all this kind of stuff. But because it's happened
Hold on, Renee in here, she said, Renee inside the chat room, she said, I saw this coming for years. I think we all did. I really do. I think everybody felt it, but it was just kind of like I said, nobody cares about politics. It's kind of too stressful. Nobody wants to care about certain things. And I really feel like everybody has had a perception of all the things that are going on, and they've sensed it. It's just that, we still had our daily lives. We thought that we were doing the right thing. We really thought that our government was doing the right thing. I think we all really kind of thought that there was terrorists for a minute there. We let 8 years go by, basically, blindly. Oops, our bad. It's time to wake up.
Right. Yeah,
so
it really
going.
is.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. And any time that you get, a thought like that, by all means, put it out there, because I love, like I said, we had a 4.5 hour, going back and forth conversation like this, earlier, and it was amazing. It was amazing the amount of information that we had, given each other and shared, and that's what it's all about for me, and people getting together and understanding that, a lot of people, the veil is lifting. People are seeing through all of this, but they still don't really have any idea what they can do. And,
their potential,
it's really like when,
their ability.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, my God, you're absolutely right.
We're talking about, the gun control and all these things, but what people don't understand is people who, do go out and they do, they always did buy their guns legally and register them and do everything they were supposed to do, right? And so people went and bought them for hunting or for protecting themselves or for whatever reason it may be, okay? And it works fine. It's not all the registered gun owners that are out killing each other. It's the ones that are getting them. It's the ones getting them off the street.
And it's not going to stop crime, neither.
No, not one bit, because our
not at
government
all. Somebody
is
will
the
break
same
into your
ones
house
that
and steal your gun, and now what?
Them.
You got a registered gun in somebody else's name, and you're going out there to rob people. I mean, what does it really fit?
What happens is they take all of our weapons away, and here all of these criminals and all these people who are bad still have access to this stuff. It's very easy to get. I mean, I know that I could go out right now if I wanted to, and I could buy myself a handgun or gun without it registered, without any of that, under $100.
Oh, you ain't kidding. You're absolutely right.
Isn't that bad? But the fact that
that's horrible. But it makes me want to go do it right now so that nobody knows about it. And before it's too late. But I will say one thing: you live by the gun, you die by the gun. And as soon as they see you with the gun, they're going to shoot at you. And so you need to think about that. So if it makes me think, what's going to be the safest thing for my family? Should I buy a bunch of guns and arm everybody? Because I don't have Predator drones. I don't have tanks. I don't have a bunch of Humvees. You know what I mean? Like, this is what our military has. They even have robots. You know what I'm saying? Like, military robots, And there's things, if you start researching on the internet, I actually have a page, and I'm not trying to advertise or anything, but I have a page on there that whenever I find something that's absolutely insane and I feel that it's absolutely true, I post it on this page. And I do some research, but there's some things you just can't find out. And there was this one called the NASA War Document, and it was talking about all these female concentration camps, DARPA, basically locking people up, poisoning people, all these things. This thing was put out years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And exactly. HARP and all the things that they have had, put out. It was all predicted in here. This lady, you can just see it in her face and in her bones. She was scared poopless. Okay, she was dude, she was so scared that it made me scared. I was like, no way! And then I started even doing more research. I was like, oh my God. And you know what? You're never going to find this stuff on the television. You're never going to find this stuff in a normal conversation because they'll think you're crazy, or you just might get locked up now, and that should tell you something. And I think people should start talking about it. I think politics, religion needs to be brought up in the table, conspiracy theories, science in a great way. Basically what I'm trying to say is this right here. it goes back into the fabric of the conversation that we were just having of how people halfway listen to people. And what I mean by that is like, you're listening to me, but within the first 5 minutes of it, you start to daze off, or you're listening to me, you don't really believe me, or it's just like, I don't really know. And I'll give you a prime example of this. I hate to throw out names like this, and maybe he'd be happy if it, but I got a buddy named Matt Pelletier, right? Love the guy, best friend, right? He's from Maine. And I was in Florida, and I've been at these places called Ginny Springs and, Blue Springs. I don't know if you've ever been to Florida and been to the Springs, but it makes Florida what it is. Not Disneyland, not golf courses, the Springs. And if you ever come to Florida, check out the Springs because that's when we come here. Well, I try to tell my friends about the Springs, right? And they'd be like, oh, yeah? Yeah? Right on, that's cool. And I'm like, no, dude, you got to believe me. And there was, like, no real excitement. But when they saw it themselves, oh, my God, you should have saw the glow in it. He lives there now. He lives a half hour from the Springs right now. I mean, this guy is not messing around. Like, and so I bring this up to him so that he understands now from now on, if I say something and I'm passionate about it, please believe me, because I don't just halfway throw things out there. And so it's the same way with that NASA war document. The things that this girl was saying was incredibly chilling. It made me completely I just wanted to share it to the world. And as I shared it and people started to see it, they started to shut me down. They were even like, you know what, we get the picture. And I was like, well, great, share it on your page. Tell your friends.
Right.
Tell somebody.
Because,
you know what I mean? Don't
because
cut
the thing
me
is
down.
that they shut you down. I mean, even, a lot of times a person will go out there and they'll put all that information out and then their site will get shut down. The whole purpose of sharing this information is that no matter if they shut it down, somebody else is going to put it out. That's what we're doing right now with the whole YouTube thing because, somebody will make a video and they'll within,
something gets shut down?
It's gone. So it's disappeared. Yeah. And so I tell everybody, when I put stuff out there for you, download it. Download it so when it comes up missing, it deletes, we're going to just keep putting it back out there. We're going to keep sharing it because we download it to ourselves. And we, no matter, they'll eventually get you and they'll, stop everybody. But look at how much information was still able to get out there in that small amount of time. And as I said, I feel that we are at a time right now where we have a very small window of time. And, everything that we do, we really have to think about it. And, look, there is people...
I have to put it out there like this. You got a window of time. And we all have, this little definition of hope staggering on our shoulders. But there is also a fate that was also written in time. And I'm not saying that to go ahead and just start running to it. But as we can see in the things that are starting to pan out, like Fukushima, like the rumors of wars, and nation shall rise against nation, this is in the Bible, and the end times, this is what we talk about. And this is exactly the way that they've been talking about this war in Syria, and Russia going against us, and China going against us. And then they say that nation will rise against nation, right? And then there will be famines and pestilences. And then there will be earthquakes in diverse places, and then those rumors of wars and pestilences and famines, and then there will be basically an all-out earthquake that's going to completely devastate the whole world, and then, we're going to start going into our trials and tribulations, and then supposedly, and what I think is really going on, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but if you understand it all and you start looking into the God aspect and you look into the Illuminati aspect and it's all created, it's all connected and linked together. And I personally believe that when you take all these things into factor, there is good and evil, and that's about all that you can say in this world. So if you can estimate it up to that, then how do you know that there really isn't a God or a Satan or evil spirits or good spirits or particular things working in a battle around you that you don't understand and that was already planned in time? And so when you think about all these things that are coming true, even if maybe it's not true, but why is our government making Fukushima happen? Why did they make that happen? And that was one of those world devastating things that was supposed to happen in the Bible to create an end-of-the-world havoc thing where the ocean will turn blood red and all the creatures in the ocean will die. And that is predicted in the Bible. And then they'll do the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast.
And we're seeing this all right now. Anyway, we are seeing, just mass die-off of animals, our sea lice and, regular animals. And, the CDC is creating,
but
bacteria
this window,
all
like,
the time.
where's the window of time? I mean, I think the only window of time is to start censoring yourself deep into yourself and start getting closer to your personal God or whatever it is to yourself, because we all have our own reality and our own experiences. And I think that what people really should do is just basically, like, these awakenings that we're talking about, specific abilities that we were talking about, that I think that everybody can have these same visions and have the same abilities as these things. And we're obviously going to be seeing these things, but I think that's the time. That's the small window that we have right now, is to emphasize those, make those grow, nurture them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that, that is something, everybody has abilities. And, I keep trying to tell people, I have taken people who, say they have no abilities. And what's kind of funny is that, like when people have their intuition or, and everybody I've ever spoken to, I said, well, have you ever, walked into a place or around people, or you kind of just get a feeling like, oh, I better not do that, or, oh, this person doesn't, I get a bad feeling, and they're like, oh, yeah, of course I have. I'm like, okay, those are psychic abilities. Intuition is definitely an ability. And, but once again, it's the way we're brought up to think about things. And so right now, it's kind of like we got to college, and we've got all the way knocked back down to kindergarten, because we have to relearn everything all over again. Because once the veil lifts, you realize that it's not just a couple things that are lies out. It just start happening. This is,
and we talked about that today, which
was long time. Absolutely.
Yep, that was a good conversation today. How we talked about how basically relieving the veil from your eyes will totally help you see way, way more into things and find solutions for yourself, heighten your abilities, and totally make you not only like look at problems but solve them. You become to understand everything way more. And then that's when I brought up hallucinogenics and how I think the government basically diminishes those because of positive thinking. It's a way to evolve your conscious abilities, and it heightens you to higher levels of consciousness. There's tribes in the world that, practice these as religious rituals. But here in America, it's deemed as a class 1 drug, and completely banned and labeled the worst drug in the world, And so it's really, it's like, what do we believe? And our belief system, and are you sure it's really the correct one? And sometimes I think the best thing is to do is to get shook. Let your reality be shook, because you're staring at a stage. You know what I'm saying? This is all just a big stage, and there's a puppet master in the sky, and he's pulling all the strings. The president is actually a fist puppet. He's a fist puppet. He's got his, on somebody else's fist, and he's running his little muck and following a little teleprompt script of what to say as the world falls apart behind him. And you got to remember, too, political language was designed so that lies can be deceiving. Lies can sound like the truth. They sound really good, and it also can be confusing and make you just be like, you know what, I think I'm too stupid for this. But you're not. It's just as easy as everything else.
Right, and look at
politics
the
of your life.
President President doesn't write his own speeches. He's got somebody who writes all of his speeches for him, and he just goes out and reads them. Those aren't his own words. Those aren't his own thoughts. You know what I mean? And the thing is of course, and what's so bad is our government's so corrupt that, it's like, now, before it was just like, oh, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? It's across the board. I mean, it's a true battle between good and evil. I mean, no matter how you look at it, no matter what your belief system is, this is what it is. It's always been there. It's kind of like yin and yang, it's always there. Good always seems to prevail. But the thing is that you can manipulate.
Hey, thank you, Patrick,
people.
for putting that in the chat room there, and that little Bible quote there. Thanks for putting that in there and showing people that I'm not lying.
Oh, I'm telling you, I Patrick and everybody, Renee, he's in my group, and my people that follow my show and that are in my chat room, regularly, on a very regular basis. I mean, they're so loyal, and I'm telling you, like, talking to them, it's like how I was talking to you today. It's just so amazing how many times that we feel like we're the only ones that think this way. We're the only ones who see all this crap. We're the only ones that have this kind of stuff happening around us. And oh no, I'm telling you, I have more people around me, and it's such a breath of fresh air, to see this, because it's like you're not having to really convince anybody. You're just putting information out there, and people know very, very well, that this is the way things work. And, a lot of people follow my show.
I'm going to bring something up, though, because I was thinking about something, If you look at all the other presidents that we've ever had, some of them are really good, but most of them are actually related to each other, and they're actually like, kind of lead to this kind of devious little conspiracy that I think you are aware of, and I think most are too. But Obama is just an individual who kind of came out of the woodworks. It's as if he's been like a part of the whole plan from the beginning. And like, he's got no background, no ex-girlfriends. When people go and try to talk to their teachers about these things, nobody knows who this guy is. And so that's really kind of a big risk taker to me, and it makes me really kind of question our president really in general and what kind of intentions he had from the beginning. Because some presidents really are really being pushed along, to say things. In fact, I believe it was President Reagan was actually what he actually apologized to one of the individuals for representing his script wrong, and he accidentally slipped, and he basically apologized to his Secret Service guy or whatever, like, oh, I'm terribly sorry, I messed up, because like, basically they were doing a cover-up, and but not necessarily a cover-up. It's basically the president comes out there. You think he's got the best ideas, the best interests of you in mind, and you're going to kind of look up to him and think that what he has to say. But there might be a hidden agenda behind what he has on the table that seems so much best for you. It's just like Jesse Ventura said. He says, when the government says that they're going to help you, get ready because you're about to lose your rights. And that's exactly what he said, and he's not kidding. I mean, look at Obamacare. It's right, the government, we care about your health. We're going to increase your rates, leave you completely dying, lifeless, and also homeless. Because if you look at people and the insurance premiums and things, it's really just a no-win-win situation. And the fact that it needs to be mandatory really just shows you how crooked things are starting to lead, for the futures of our children. That's the scary part to me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Here I've got, I've got a granddaughter that's 2, and I've got another grandchild on the way, and, it's kind of like, wow, I never thought I would be, thinking ahead that far of, wow, where is our nation going? Our kids we've always looked at our kids, our future, and, like right now our future looks so, bleak the way that it's going. But once again, if just as it always has been throughout time, when people finally get fed up and things get too crooked, people revolt. They stand up for themselves, and they usually win. Are we at that point of time? We also know that throughout time, at different times, we've had cataclysmic things that have wiped out nearly, every living thing, other than a few things on it. So, but once again, we are in this fantasy world that we live in that, maybe those things have happened and that's what goes on, but it would never happen to us. We'll never see it in our lifetime. This could happen thousands of years from now. Nobody ever wants to think it could happen. And I do want to get to Fukushima because, Fukushima, what was so crazy is that, not only did, we use HAARP because, and Renee, I'm sure if you keep an eye on chat, we'll definitely tune in on this. But Renee keeps track of the earthquakes from around the world.
Actually, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier too. And we keep track and we pinpoint everything, and all of them
in fact,
where
you know
they're
what,
at.
I'll do something that I'm going to go ahead and and I'm not going to try to cut you off, but I actually have, for my show that I have this new thing that I call Pressing the Issue, where I go ahead and talk about every single earthquake that happens in a week. And if you want, I'll go ahead and read all the ones that have happened so far since last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That would be great because, and people, once again, it's like, well, why is that? It's, people tell me all the time, you research so much, Christina, and it's just so much useless information. It's just a lot of information. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not. It's like,
really
it's
not.
like, the secret code. And the more I get to it, the more information, the more it makes sense. And, it's like having a piece of paper, you ripped it all up and it was in the garbage. And now you got to, slowly put all the pieces back together. And then all of a sudden, it starts making words and it starts making sentences. And pretty soon you're like, oh, my God, that's what that word, that letter said. So to me, that's the way it is, and all this information is very, important, and it is, very important that we understand this stuff. And with HAARP, we did see, not only did we keep track of the earthquakes, but Renee also keeps track of the HAARP stats. And it would be funny because we would see it in the red, in certain areas right before it had these horrible tornadoes or, earthquakes or these floods. It's like I was just watching a video on YouTube, which is, once again, something that is not being discussed in, with mainstream media.
Mainstream media, yeah.
It was of all of this thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of cattle were lost due to the rain, the freak rain and snow storms.
Colorado, and did you hear about 50,000? I think, it was 50,000 people missing.
Oh, well, I know. Yeah,
now, I don't know if that was
that
true, because I tried to research it some more, but I do know that there's been a lot of things happening. And right around these areas where there's a lot of monsoons and there's been tornadoes, storms coming in, and you're absolutely right. With the cow situation, I just recently saw that same one, too.
Yeah, South Dakota, and it was so bad that, they said, and they were saying that, that they get, South Dakota gets, snow, and, these people have been ranching, for, generations and generations back. So they know what they're doing. But what had happened is this was such a freak, weather storm, and we see this, and we've been seeing it over the last 2 years, and I told people it was only going to get worse, and these things were going to be freakier and freakier. And, we'd get all these bloody, in Colorado and all these different locations. But first it rained, and it rained so much that, all of the dirt became mud. And so, all these calves and all the cows and stuff were walking around, and they would get, it was deep, and they would get stuck in it. Well, then it started snowing, and they don't, because it's not winter yet, and we were having this, they didn't have their nice, thick, fully, furry coat yet to survive it. And so they literally tried to, get downwind. They tried to do whatever they could and get under trees, and they would lay down because they were just so tired. And before you know it, they were completely, the snow came down so hard that they were completely, covered in it. And so they all froze or suffocated to death. And other ones, they were fishing them out now, with bulldozers out of the water. And there was, like this year, 60,000 heads of cattle that were dead, and you don't hear anything. Right, you're not hearing anything about that. And Fukushima,
I know, how come? Hey, when I bring this up to people, they're like, why are you telling me this stuff? It's so depressing. I'm like, dude, because you're not going to hear it from anybody else.
And
don't you want to know?
That's true.
What about the bees?
But I'd rather
what about the bees that are vanishing from the earth? Because that's a very important thing. We talk about cows and people, which is very important, but that's a culling. That's like a sacrifice to, Baphomet, basically, if you want to get down into the nitty-gritty. And so, basically you want to lessen population. You want to, continue on this, basically if the fluoride isn't working enough, which has caused lung cancer, breast cancer, just cancer, and also makes you dumb. And if you know anything about your pineal gland and how it links to your spiritual subconscious mind, the fluoride affects your mind as well, and actually builds a cartilage-like substance around your brain, so that basically you're not able to use your pineal gland. And so doesn't that kind of tell you that they want you to be dumb? You know what I mean? I mean, they've been doing this for over 50 years, doing this to our water supply.
Well,
then you got genetically modified organisms and our foods, which are causing cancers and causing other problems, and it's really a bad thing. We're basically being poisoned, and if it's not working fast enough, they'll invent a new drug and put it out in the streets and get a bunch of kids addicted to it, so they're ODing it, or bath salts, or something else. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes down even further into the fact that if it's not going to work and it's not working fast enough, I'm going to turn on this machine called HARP and wipe out an entire population real quick.
Right.
And it's the truth, and
And what a way, though, to put a fear factor into people, if nothing else. When they see something, that is like that. And the thing is that we've had this technology for a very long time. There's so much technology that we have.
We actually have the dirt end of it. Yeah, like when you dig a well and you got the water on top, that's the clean water. That's the fresh knowledge or the fresh technology of today. We got down to sand. We're in the mucky muck. Like the Internet, that was invented by the military, and it was released to us in the 80s, you know what I'm saying? And so then all of a sudden Steve Jobs created Apple computers, the first Apple computer, home entertainment computer, and then it just started from there. And they were like, you know what, we can use this for particular things, but we need to try to understand that we can't even understand this ourselves. We can't control this. And so we really hope that we can kind of distract people on this and keep them in particular things. And that's where it was just really kind of like mundane chat rooms. I don't know if you remember just the chat rooms when the Internet first came out. There was no MySpace or Facebook or networking like that. I mean, you literally got limited, and you didn't really even have Google. It was really just uncreated yet, but they knew its true potential. I mean, we were limited from the moment that we got it. And then as soon as technology just kept advancing and people took control. We're obviously a prime example of this. When you look at a disease, or something, an ailment that comes in your body starts to heal itself and it fights back. You fight back. Well, our government is a disease, and we see it, and we need to fight back. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. And we do fight back in so many different ways, but it's getting to the point now where it's affecting your kids, it's in your music, it's in our entertainment industries, it's in the fashion. People have totally lost purpose of life. We're living lost and blind, and then when you try to talk to somebody about it, they just shut right down. And my buddy basically says it's like you're in the Matrix, and he tells me I got to pull them out really gently. But it's hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes to break people out of the spell at such a fierce rate, I want to just show people exactly what I know and get them to take it. And I got buddies around me that never even thought of this stuff until they started hanging around with me. And now here I am in 9 months talking to these guys, and they're finally starting to get the picture. You know what I'm saying? Now they want to jump on board. So I'm doing my part as best as I possibly can with everything around me, and I know you are too. You're doing a fabulous, fabulous job.
Well, thank you. And what people don't understand, though, is that, people right away, it's like they think if there needs to be an uprising or something, it's got to be violent. And what people don't understand is that, your biggest tool to fight this is to be educated, to have your eyes open to what's going on around us. Because then we can kind of take back one by one our lives, what we do, and then that grows as a collective, and it grows as a collective, and, it spreads. So there are plenty of things that, we can do. And, I have a hard time with a lot of stuff because we are so, stuck in certain things. Because, like, when I was first diagnosed with, you know, my illness, you know, and the doctor said, you know, I really thought it was like a really, you know, bad joke because, you know, here I have a near-death experience. I come back from it, and then they say, you know, well, it wasn't my time, and they say, but, by the way, we found out that you have this incurable illness that's going to kill you. It's going to be a horrible death, you know, so start planning, you know, but here, just take these pills and these pills. And I can remember when I was first diagnosed, like I had like these radiation, I had all these different treatments done, and I'll tell you, I was the sickest I had ever been. And for every one pill they gave you, that would make you have all these side effects, and then it would make you sick, so you needed another pill. And then, you know, before you knew it, I was like on, you know, like 18 different medications a day and all this stuff.
Me too.
And I will tell you, you start to get sick. And I finally had to say, look, enough is enough.
You know what I did?
I can't take this anymore.
You know what I did is I turned around and I listened to what my doctor said that I had a lack of, and I looked at my medicines, and me and my wife got together, and she was like, well, you need these pills.
He's not in queue. He dropped out.
Okay, so, all right, are we live, or are we on
We're live.
Okay.
We're live.
Let's go ahead and take a commercial real quick. Maybe we're getting some interference right now, so who knows? So let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll try to get Judith back on the line, and if not, I will come back and we'll continue our discussion. So everybody stick around. We'll try to get right back to you.
Dreams Code Magazine is a proud sponsor of DTMWickedRadio.com. In Dreams Code Magazine, you can learn all about ghosts, orbs, sleep paralysis, and more. Go to www.dreamcodesmagazine.com to order a subscription and learn more. The historical Fort William Henry Country Center and Resort is a proud sponsor of GTM Wicked Radio. If you're looking for a relaxing getaway, the historical Fort William Henry Resort and Conference Center is your destination. Come enjoy the beautiful mountains, the gorgeous lake, and everything Lake George has to offer in upstate New York, right off the Adirondack Mountains. For reservations, you can go to www.fortwilliamhenry.com or call 1-800-234-0267. The Fort William...
Rolling Hills Asylum. Located in East Bethany, New York, just minutes between two major airports, Rolling Hills Asylum is a hotbed of paranormal activity. They have been featured on Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Challenge, as well as Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters. Rolling Hills Asylum has been named the #2 most haunted location in the United States by HauntedNorthAmerica.com. The property was established on January 1st, 1827, as the county poor farm. Throughout the years, it has operated as a poor farm, infirmary, orphanage, tuberculosis hospital, nursing home, and more. Past residents and inmates consist of widows, orphans, physically disabled, mentally unstable, murderers, and more. Over 1,700 bodies are buried in unmarked graves, and hundreds more deaths went undocumented. Rolling Hills Asylum is known for a plethora of phenomena, including disembodied voices, doors slamming, footsteps, sounds of furniture moving, full-body apparitions, shadow people, ghostly touches, and numerous Class A EVP. Rolling Hills Asylum proudly offers historical and flashlight tours, 4- and 8-hour public ghost hunts, 8- and 9-hour private ghost hunts, and more, by appointment or pre-booking only. For more information, please visit www.rollinghillsasylum.com. That's www.rollinghillsasylum.com. Or give them a call, 585-502-4066. That's 585-502-4066. Rolling Hills Asylum. What are you doing this weekend?
All right, everybody, we're back. This is Christina George with Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. Tonight we are talking with Judith Crowley, and we are talking conspiracy theory, government, takeovers, our president, Obamacare, HARP, you name it, we're talking about it tonight. So right before, and this is kind of crazy because for people who do follow my show, very strange things happen all the time. On the Paranormal Connection show, I get EVPs. I get spirit voices that come through all the time. In fact, the other night it was like just crazy. It was so crazy that we had over 80 EVPs, so we did a whole show on that. But on this show, whenever it seems like I'm talking about certain topics, especially conspiracy theories, we start having, technological problems, all kinds of connection problems. And it was kind of funny because I was out at the Awaken the Aware conference in March of this past year. And, people are like, nobody cares about this stuff. And I'm like, they're watching you. And nobody wanted to believe me, right? And I'm like, they're surveilling this place. Well, nobody still believes me. And so I just kind of I want to get away from everybody. I'm like, here are all these people that believe in all this stuff, but it's like they don't even understand, even really what they're talking about all this stuff. But they're not even really thinking that it affects them. And so I went up to the roof, and I'm up on the roof, and I go to connect Wi-Fi. And so I look through my Wi-Fi, and sure as hell, right on the top it says, for the available wireless, it said FBI surveillance van. I looked down, 2 blocks down, and sure as hell, there's a van all blacked out, sitting on the corner with 2 people in the front. And I screenshotted it. And I sent it to everybody, and I put it on Facebook, too, I think. And I said, to all you people who...
If I end up dead, it was these people.
I'm just like, are you kidding me? Paying attention, And I had 2 of my friends
I was laughing. I was trying to keep quiet at the same time, though.
Don't you feel like, there's... When you start talking about this, and a lot of people say, conspiracy, just a bunch of crazy people, with their crazy thoughts. No. And if you pay attention, a lot of the truthers and a lot of the people that are coming out with the same information that we're talking about, all of a sudden, suddenly disappear or have sudden crazy car accidents or, at the beginning they were all dropping dead from so-called quote-unquote heart attacks. And until we found out about the gun that they have that can shoot and it's such a minute hole that they can't even see it on the autopsy. And
I got a link, right? I got a link to this. Okay, so check this out, right? I stumbled across it actually on 9/11, right? Because when 9/11 happened, it's funny. I usually write notes down so I don't dance around on topics because I talk about one thing and then all of a sudden I'll start thinking about something else. And so we bring up 9/11, and it really passionately sticks to me because the day was just, really heartbreaking. I'm actually from New England, so, I was actually going to school at the time. A lot of my friends had family that was in New York in the World Trade Center that did die. They were completely devastated, and it really rocked my world. And I had kind of, basically an epiphany that was going to happen, a couple weeks before it actually did. So it was even more of an earth-shaking thing. It was like, wow, dude, did I think that to happen? Like, that was pretty crazy. And then as time went on, again, they threw in the Patriot Act. We went to war. Then they threw in the big patriotic party. Everybody started partying, drinking. We're all independent, having a good old time. We love everybody. We're USA, and then slowly the banks start falling out. People need bailouts. Our government's going to crap, but people aren't paying attention because, they're trying to focus on their daily lives and families and particular things, and all the while where you're not paying attention behind the curtains, there's all these little tricks and games to bring us forth to exactly what we're talking about right here. That's no longer a conspiracy theory anymore. Like, that's the scary part. That's the part where it was like, before these people were wearing tinfoil hats. Now it's to the point where it's like, it's really true, because if it wasn't true, then why are all conspiracy theorists now targeted by our government? It's not really happening seriously yet, but it's on its course. It's on its way. Like, really it is. And that it goes against, too, like, who is really the terrorist? You know? You guys still there? Because I don't want to lose you again.
Yes, no, we're here still.
Okay. So, like, I thought I was like, you know, you never know. So, like, it's totally true. Like, you know, I think we've all kind of felt it, but we've all, like, kind of been distracted, you know, so to speak. And, you know, but in a real true sense, that was a very devastating point in our lives, man, and we should really, truly, you know, take it into consideration. But there was actually an underlying reason of why I was talking about this, and before I mentioned 9/11. What was it exactly that you said right before I went into 9/11 and why it affected me? Do you remember? Hold on, they'll probably come to me. That's why I hate having ADHD.
Well, you know what? I'm going to talk about that because that is something that you told me today, and that is another, you know, big farce that I can't stand. You know, people back when, you know, I was, you know, a teen and in my earlier years, you know, right away when I was saying that I could see spirits and, you know, different things, they would try to tell me that, you know, I, you know, might be bipolar or schizophrenic or all this kind of stuff, and here could kill, and, you know, thank God I was so young that my grandmother was like, absolutely not. I am not going to allow her to be on any kind of, you know, she was very supportive of anything that I said or did, but it was, you know, kind of strange, and we're talking about, you know, medications before we got cut off.
Yeah,
and
before they cut me off.
And that was something that I was talking about was, you know, here they were giving me all these pills, and one pill, you know, it made things. It's funny that people will say when you see on TV, right, you'll see these new drugs that come out. And they've got, you know, the most, you know, Leave It to Beaver families, and everybody's happy. And, oh, I was in such pain, and I was in such horrible, you know, despair before I took this. And then, you know, everything, all the happy music, and then all of a sudden you get to the fine print, and it's saying you may experience, I think you may experience depression. You might want to commit suicide. You may have, you know, abdominal cramps. You may have diarrhea. You may have bleeding from the,
you might have involuntary, you know, basically, what are extractions from your body, you know, like
exactly. You might have seizures, and people are like, oh, once again, okay, well, it'll fix me. That only happens to other people, those side effects, you know, and then all of a sudden they take something, and then, you know, it's like they go into cardiac arrest, and they're like, what? So, you know, it's crazy how it goes. And so I really started looking into more of the natural medicine, the holistic medicine, you know, and it's a big thing is, you know, mind.
And that's what I was trying
body.
to say was that you don't need medicines. There really are holistic ways that you don't. There's natural remedies in the world, and that's really where most of our medicines are derived from, is these natural resources and elements in the world, and they put other substances in there. I'm not going to take it. I hate to take it off into such a narrow-ended, way off in a left field end of the universe topic, but when you start thinking about, you know, the things that we're talking about, basically, when it comes down to medicine, you know, we're talking about kind of like chemistry, basically, you know. So you're taking chemicals that are, being combined together that are supposed to basically heal you, right? Well, don't you think that maybe scientists are sitting in a room and maybe thinking of other ways to maybe trigger other elements of the brain that you don't use? And so by giving you this medicine, it might make you think this particular way, if you can channel this particular part of your brain to be triggered, and then all of a sudden now you're thinking suicidal thoughts, you want to murder people, and then boom, you're walking into a movie theater shooting out 13 people, you know, and so these medicines are actually more dangerous. Doctors are actually paid a lot of money to lie to you and not really give you affection and to push these murderous substances. And you know, I think that these chemicals are very important when you start looking at down to just everything in life. You know what I'm saying? Like the chemistry of life itself, the chemicals that are what we use to heal us, the same chemicals that we use to destroy us. It's the same way that we are with people. We need to be the same way. You know, like we can heal each other in our mind. We can heal each other with other people through like channeling that energy and that thought process and believing it and knowing it's going to be okay. You can do it. And they're destroying that through these medicines too. Their true intuitive abilities to link into yourself, to be exactly what you know, me and my buddy have always said it to ourselves. We're like, well, it came to us a long time into our researches and philosophical like conversations. We realized that the people that we are looking for in life, we are them. And so it was a pretty strong epiphany, because it means that everybody that's listening to this show and whoever they're looking for, they are that person. They hold all that information inside. And they should start conversing and sharing. And everybody should really open up a lot more. And so just as well as these chemicals combining together and can destroy you or heal you, it's the same way with the chemicals of us and the chemistry of us as people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, they'll say, you know, cancer cannot be cured, you know, without, you know, zapping yourself with radiation and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I call bullshit where it is, because I know many people that have been, you know, cured of cancer and not took any of the drugs, didn't do chemo, didn't, you know, refuse radiation. And the doctors, you know, sat there and...
You ever heard of the Oregon Accumulator? The Oregon Accumulator? It was built by Wilhelm Reich. He was from, well, I'm not really sure where exactly he was from. I mean, I have researched it and stuff, and I do, like, know, but I'm not really sure. I know he's from Rangeley, Maine. That's where he moved to. He's got, like, a museum there. And he invented also the weather machine. So Nicholas Tesla invented HAARP, but Wilhelm Reich actually invented a weather machine also. And he also invented this thing called an Oregon Accumulator, which can cure cancer and arthritises and back pains and, you know, kidney ailment, anything you could think of. You sit inside this box. And my father actually knows how to make one. And he basically was telling me that what you do is you sit inside this box and meditate, and all through the electrical currencies of it's like a special roll and another kind of material that's in the middle of a box within a box. And so you've got basically like an insulation of like a magnetic field so that it's channeling out illnesses in you. And the government went in there and confiscated all of Wilhelm Reich's materials and all his inventions. And when he went to court, he went to go speak out about his inventions to try to, you know, defend himself, and they put him in contempt, and he died in jail in contempt. He never got to have a fair trial or nothing, and they stole all his information and all the evidence of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's just like with, you know, our scientists and things like that. You know, we go and these scientists, you know, make these great discoveries, and then, you know, next thing you know, they're killed off. Suddenly they die, you know, and now we've got the information.
Story Spirit actually asked inside the thing, she said, wow, why aren't we using this? Well, the key thing is that if you really start looking into the web and the conspiracy of the Illuminati, the same people that poison us are the same people that own the FDA. So Monsanto is owned by the FDA. So sickness itself is a trillion-dollar industry. And there's no money in cure. There's no money in something that's going to be a good resource for the people and everlasting. There's more money in crime, drug wars, racist profiling, turning other races to each other. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. It goes down to the fabric of everything that you literally think every single day. They've got men sitting around a round table getting paid thousands of dollars to think of ways to control us, how to basically put us in a maze, you know, and make sure we don't wake up.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And, like you said, the pharmaceutical companies, it's all about money. It's all about greed. There's so many things that people don't need. I mean, look at before we had our traditional doctors the way we have them now. We went to, people would go to medicine men or medicine women or, people that knew how to, combine herbs and things like
Shamans.
that. Then, Well, then you start getting, a lot of people that would do that. And we have plenty of people that survived all kinds of stuff, and they didn't have any of the traditional medicine that we have now, and they survived these things. So,
I've had a family that's never been to a hospital a day in their life, never had medicine, totally lived off the land, and the mom even had every single one of her kids, basically in the bathtub. I know some people are like, wow, that's kind of weird, but those kids, that whole family has never been to the hospital. They only eat natural foods. They've never had any crap, no fast food restaurants, none of that stuff. Like, they were raised almost the way that I believe people really should be raised, organically, because we're organic too. As much as people look for organic food, they need to understand that you're an organic substance yourself. So if you're going to put all this artificial crap in you, obviously that's not going to be organic, so you're going to almost make yourself no longer organic. And there is scientific fact proven that we are controlled by our environment. So all the pollution, all the things that we're putting in our body, all the things that are around us from the chemtrails, all these particular things, like the radiation from the sun by depleting the ozone layer, these things can deplete your genes, make you not live longer, make you completely just fall apart without even realizing it. Because it's really truly proven that your genes are manipulated by your environment.
Right. Well, look at, I'm 46, and I remember when I was a child, you rarely heard about people who had dementia. Like, people got old and they just died, but they didn't have dementia and Alzheimer. But now, you talk to people and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And what people don't understand is people, I'll run across people and they'll say, well, I'm doing my part. I'm growing my own food, or I go to the store and I buy what it says organic on it. Well, what people don't understand is, like, with the Monsanto and all these things, it is in everything. It is in
They're growing organic too. You need to go find natural food suppliers, that seed suppliers they're not affiliated with Monsanto. And the thing about Monsanto is people are like, oh, well, I heard that they just want to basically make it so that we're sterile, and that basically because we have so much, people on the earth, that they need to actually genetically modify food to keep people satisfied with the food. And that's actually a lie. Starvation is on purpose. People in Africa that are dying every day, that is actually set up by the Illuminati as well. And it's hard to understand that it's the Illuminati and how it's affiliated with the Illuminati when you, look at the government, and then you look at the Illuminati, and you're like, well, what do you mean? Is the government the Illuminati? It's individuals inside the government that have been pulling strings and trying to get to the top for a really long time, and guess what? They finally made it there. And they're a global elite leaders now. They're infiltrated all the political, basically I would say governments and everything like that, and and they basically have infiltrated it and started the NWO, and it's happening right now, the New World Order, and this is also a Illuminati prophecy, and so when you sit there and can understand that Bible prophecy is coming true, you've got these guys pulling the strings of Illuminati laws. When you understand the Illuminati laws, and then you start looking at the distance back in the past, man, there's some crazy stuff going on, and I can give people answers, really, if they want to hear them, you know what I'm saying, but in the real reality, we got some dangerous forces working around us right now, and it's crazy.
Absolutely.
So people need to definitely start finding these seeds. Oh, I was going to say that. So, people think that basically they're just sterile, but that's not the case, right? So what really is the case, because children are $1 billion industry. Children make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then you have But then also you got cancer. It causes cancer. It depletes your lifestyle. I mean, it kills you, basically. This is food that's going to destroy you. And the seeds that are inside the food, like if you pull out a seed from an apple and go and plant it, if you want to go, grow an apple tree, it'll never produce. So you'll always have to basically go to Monsanto to buy your seeds so they control your food supply. So therefore they control cultures. And they already pay farmers to only plant a certain amount of food. So, I mean, you can obviously see that we're in a big web conspiracy of trying to just basically bring down population, control people, make us dumb, and slaves to a servant society, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And it's, but, on the positive side, is that people are waking up. I have been waiting my whole life for people to, finally listen to what I have to say and believe me. And
I know. I'm so glad I heard it, too, because I was like, man, it was so hard-hitting. It wasn't like you were dancing around the facts here. It was beautiful stuff. And I was like, man, this girl's, she's tapped in, dude. Like, she's tapped in.
And, that's what I want to do. It's, for me, it's not all about me. It's not all about my opinion. I'm not anybody different. The people who come and want to listen
to what you're tapped into. That's what matters.
It is who
and getting people to that level.
And people who know me know that this isn't any kind of facade. Like people who have known me, over the last 11 years.
Well, when I was talking to you earlier today, when I was talking to you earlier today, we were turning around and it was like, I was explaining myself how, this isn't a light switch. This doesn't go on and off. And you're like, absolutely. It's the same way for me, basically, Maybe not those exact words, but I got the vibe, And we talked clearly for almost 5 hours about this stuff right here without even a bat of an eyelid, a meal, a bathroom break or a drink or whatever. I mean, literally it was like totally effortless. So it just shows that you really are tapped in. It's, some people you go to have this conversation and they want to talk about it briefly, but then you go to have it to them again and they're like, dude, I don't really want to talk about this stuff right now. So it's like they only want to be tapped in at certain times. I just feel like that it needs to get to a point where, I'm going to throw another thing out there. Like, people look at religion as kind of like a bad thing. Religion means just a way of life. That's really all it means. It's just like a routine. So your life that you live it is your religion. So if you don't believe in anything at all and you just basically go to work every day and just do the same old thing and the same old mundane personality, that's your religion. Whether you believe in God or not, you're basically practicing a ritual, the same thing every single day. Well, I think that people should really ultimately start waking up to the real fundamentals of what's going on around them and maybe even start opening themselves up to other entities that are higher beings, Like, I'm sure a lot of your fans believe in God and believe in a lot more than what most people do. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a special gift that, you've created to have a bunch of people that understand and see your views, or let's say they don't see your views one day, but they'll listen, right? And then they'll probably come back and be like, well, man, she told me about something and it was absolutely right, and she got me the curiosity to go out there and research this stuff, and she's totally telling the truth. Man, I ought to maybe consider listening to a lot more than what she just has to say. But let's talk about Fukushima for a second. I want to head right into the math before I gave you guys a call, right? Let me find out, where did I write that down? Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, I remember now. It was inside a notebook. Hold on a second.
Well, they have a big storm coming, heading that way, a typhoon or going that way. And people don't understand, like, this is on such critical high alert. It's in such bad state that if they get hit by this storm, I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. You think Chernobyl was bad? That's going to be nothing. It's going to be nothing. Like, I don't even know.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I was going to read all the earthquake stuff off my show, but my next show, but actually I'll go ahead and read you what I got for Fukushima, because I talk about Fukushima every single week because it's about pressing the issue. People need to hear about it. People need to act now, act fast, act sure
when
we're
out there, the information.
Now,
it's going to affect
when I
us
do the
too.
pressing
Not
the
just
issue,
going to affect Japan.
No, you're absolutely right. When I do press on the issue, I do go ahead and just basically take news articles and specific things that I know are very factual, and I will just basically read them as, basically to let people know exactly what's going on. So October 15, 2013, according to professors in Japan, the worst-case scenario for Fukushima has been reached. The nuclear rods have melted and went through the reactor floors. The story released today by ENE News is disheartening and shares that this situation will continue to be a major story for world health for humans, fish, birds, and animal life across the entire world for decades, if not longer. According to the newly released video below, which is actually on my link that I have, it says, the worst-case scenario for Fukushima is also a world-end scenario and an extinction-level event if this mess is not cleaned up fast. Japan professors says that basically the nuclear rods have melted, went through the floors, contamination and impacting the rest of the world, likely that the entire Pacific Ocean will be affected. Farmers and the government does not have any idea about status of fuel. Kyoto universities or Al-Qaeda, Norio, or whatever. These are all like Japan places. Okay?
Right.
Nuclear accident gradually became a level 7 nuclear event, which is a major accident and the highest level on the international nuclear and radiological event scale. And so equivalent to Chernobyl disaster in April 1986, the radiation in the vicinity of the reactor rose steeply, becoming a deadly threat to the local residents. 3 units were exposed to level 7 accidents, and 1 unit was exposed to a level 3 incident. Well, the critical issue in the crisis became the coolant system failures, and the high temperature turned most of the internal coolant water into steam. This can be like a nuclear bomb. This can be really bad. So, like, fuel would escape away from control rods, intensify, decay, melt through the reactor floors, and consequently induce a massive release of radioactive isotopes, whatever. And the worst-case scenario, they keep saying that, it looks like they repeated a lot of the same stuff in this thing, or I might have accidentally did that. But I do have the link on that thing, but it says that the radioactive contamination caused by the nuclear accident following the earthquake and the tsunami is affecting the rest of the world through atmospheric circulation, so your atmosphere. The entire atmospheric circulation, the populated water released by the Tokyo Electric Power Company is likely to be affect the entire Pacific Ocean. And that's another thing that people don't hear about, that women are giving birth to dead babies from this already. They're already being affected by the nuclear radiation. Fish are already being kind of like looked down upon over in the West Coast, and they don't talk about that
it's horrible
in Florida.
Here. Horrible here.
Yeah, I know, and I try to tell a lot of my friends, and they're like, "Oh, you're just crazy." I'm like, "Dude, I'm telling you, I'm not crazy. I'm not eating the fish. Go right ahead. Go eat that stuff. Good luck. And when you call in, you know why."
Yeah, just like, San Francisco is, everybody's well known for Pier 39 and, the wharf and every fisherman's wharf. And, everybody's like, oh, we'll just go to the wharf and we'll go get some fresh seafood. I'm like, oh, my God. Like, that's the last, the last kind of fish you want to get right now, boy, I'll tell you, that'll give you a dose.
Yeah.
And I love fish.
So, I do too. So I did some math. So, basically word is that it's over 300 metric tons. But the last real true thing that I've gotten was basically 300 metric tons of nuclear waste every single day being pumped into the ocean. Well, we all know that this incident happened in 2011. So we're talking about 2,100 metric tons a week, 8,400 a month, 100,800 a year, and in 2 years, that's 201,600 metric tons of nuclear waste in our oceans so far already. And we're already basically halfway there. We're already in our 2.5-year mark now, heading into this. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
I mean, so this is now 2.5 years. If you just do the math, this is not a game. This is some real serious stuff. And if they think that it's just in your fish, our rain comes from the ocean. And that's what's going to feed all our food. It's going to come down as acid rain. It's going to pollute our ground so that we won't be able to have soil. I mean, not that we won't have soil. We won't be able to use our soil to be able to grow vegetables anymore. And the nutrients will be stripped from them. And it's a global extinction. They're not kidding when they say that. And so I hate to emphasize on these dark paths and these dark moments, but it just really goes to show that there's darker forces underway here. And I think the ultimate answer, and I'm going to throw this out there too, if you don't mind.
No.
If you want to think of a really good conspiracy, let's look at Christianity kind of being under attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, don't you think that that's kind of a conspiracy in its own? I mean, to me it is. You know, when you start looking at the facts of everything, with it being wiped out of schools, wiped out of our Pledge of Allegiance, to trying to wipe off "In God We Trust" off the American dollar. There's Christians dying all over the entire world except for America. And then when you start looking at our government, they hold all the ancient scrolls. They hold all the secrets to the world. They basically know what's going on, and they're trying to send you in every single direction except for Jesus Christ. And so I think that should be the biggest sign. I think everybody pretty much got where I was heading with that one. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Wow, you know, it's crazy because here we are, you know, once again, we're 5 minutes from, you know, the show ending, and, you know, although we've touched on so many different topics, there's just still so much left, you know.
It's a never-ending conversation.
Absolutely. But, you know, I want, you know, first of all, I want to give you an opportunity to be able to, you know, get some information out about yourself and where people can contact you. But I also want my listeners and people who are in chat to make sure and check out Judas Crowley's show, and he's on Thursday nights on the same DTM Wicked Network, and you can go to his page, his Facebook page as well. Also the DTM Network, you know, they put out our ads and our banners out every week for our shows, and check his out. And, you know, if you like this kind of, you know, information we're talking about, this is what Judas does every week. He covers, this is the stuff he covers. So, you know,
what I actually do is I do the same stuff. I hate to cut you off, but you're absolutely right. And what I try to do is I try to help people that might not believe, try to even question their own beliefs, and then to try to even start to understand other people's belief systems, because when you can start opening up your belief systems, and when you start to convey all these things, there isn't no more a conspiracy theory. Like, these are the facts. And so, you know, when you come and listen to my show, you might feel like, you know, I'm kind of explaining things in baby steps, but, you know, I'm going to lead you into even darker spots of the world that are the secrets, and it's going to be even more, you know, compelling and intriguing. But I'm also about, you know, helping people and helping them find their way. And that's exactly like what Christina does, is exactly what I do. You know, I just want to basically educate people, help them find their way, help them find their strengths and their abilities, and also enlighten people of the secrets of the world and the things that are really going on and how it really affects them 100%. Because, I mean, I care, she cares, and I think that, you know, the more we care and we project it out to people, the more that people will start to care, and it will be of a contagious thing. You know, so my show is Subliminal Sanity. It's on at Thursday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I got a co-host there. We discuss everything from conspiracy to religion to the Illuminati to everything that you could possibly think of. I mean, it's crazy. And I definitely hope that you guys come and check it out.
Yeah, well, definitely. I would invite all of my listeners to check it out. Tomorrow night I will be there in his chat. Once I decided to, listen to a few of the shows. The information he's getting out, really intrigued me. Our conversation today, definitely intrigued me. I was able to open, his eyes to, a few things that, I was able to share, and he was able to open my eyes. And like I said, that's what it's all about. Not one of us knows all the answers, but collectively, when we all work together.
Collectively, we do.
Right. It makes all the sense
awesome.
in the world. So, I think on that note, I will let you go ahead. We got about 1 minute, and do you want to give your Facebook page out or any information?
Yeah, it's facebook.com / all capital letters, subliminal sanity. If you guys wanted to check out all those political links I was talking about, it's facebook.com / all capital letters, repair us. And that's ARI, the American Reestablishment of Independence. And, definitely check them out, like us. It's all about education.
All right. Well, I think on that note, it's a great thing. And I want to thank all of our listeners once again for joining us tonight. You guys are awesome as usual, and I promise I'll be back next week with, bigger and better topics and see where we can all make all the connections at. So I welcome you to come back next week, and we'll talk to you then. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Christine. All right, well, I guess I'm going to go, all right?